So this is one of the key elements of fasting, is that we become righteous people. We are conscious of God through our lives, not just in Ramadan. And another verse within these verses of Surah Baqarah from verses 183 to 187, another reason for fasting is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, perhaps that you become grateful. And this is another key purpose of fasting. So one is to reform your character, that you are conscious of God. So in Ramadan we keep ourselves away from eating and drinking, something that is permitted during the rest of the year. So this is a way of us keeping away from something that is permitted. But when Ramadan finishes, there should be a wake-up call for us, that it becomes easy for us to keep away from things that are not permitted. That sins, the evil that we do regularly in our lives, they should be even easier for us. Like the same way when we have a child and we give them a bike. We don't expect the child to ride the bike straight away. We give them stabilizers, the training wheels. And this is what Ramadan is. The training wheels for us to be better people. It's about reforming our character, in our spirituality, and to be closer to God. And the other reason that we fast is to become grateful, like I mentioned. And normally when we open our fridge during the rest of the year, we find food, we eat it when we're hungry. We open the cupboard and we find food, and we're hungry, we eat. But in this month, we keep away from the things that God normally forbids us to eat. And when we open our fast, we are more grateful to God for the food that He's given us. And this is the purpose of fasting. Be more grateful and more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that mentions fasting is a shield. As-sawmu junnatun. Fasting is a shield. So it's not literally that by fasting you will be given a shield, it's a metaphor. And by this metaphor it means, through fasting, Qadi Iyad mentions in his commentary of Muslim Sharif, that by fasting, it will make the person leave sin. And another consequence of this is a person will be also shielded from the hellfire. And these things are mutual to each other. Because not only will the fasting be a shield towards sinning, but also towards the hellfire. Because both of these things are linked to each other. When a person fasts, he reforms his character and he keeps away from sinning. And as a consequence, Allah saves him from the hellfire. In another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, it mentions all the deeds of the children of Adam are multiplied so that there are 10 rewards for each good deed, increasing up to 700. So normally when a good deed is done, like reading the Quran, the holy book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you read one letter, you are awarded 10 rewards. But in the month of Ramadan, it's multiplied by 70. Okay, so you have 700 for each letter that you read. So Ramadan, the fasting of Ramadan is an exception to this, because it continues in the hadith, and Allah said, except fasting, for it's done purely for me and I reward for it. So the reward of fasting is immense, there's no limit. God doesn't put a limit of 700 or 1,000, there's no limit to fasting. Because this is a deed that is done between Allah and His slave. Because when a person might be praying, the other person might be able to see him praying. So he might have the intention that he's showing off in his prayer. But when a person is fasting, you can't differentiate between a person who's not fasting and fasting. So this is solely done with the sincere intention of fasting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the reward therefore is between him and Allah. Another explanation, Allama Ibn Hajar explains of this ahadith is, he says the reason why the reward is between Allah and His slave for fasting is because other worships have been done for other deities. For example, bowing, prostrating, and whatnot. But the fasting is solely done for Allah's sake. No, this kind of worship has not been done in history for any other person apart from God. So that is the reason why the reward is immense for fasting. And this hadith continues. He gives up his food and his drink and his sexual desires for my sake. There are two occasions of joy for one who fasts. So there's immense joy in the person who fasts. There's two joys. And he mentions a joy when he breaks it and a joy when he meets his Lord. And the breath of an observer of fast is sweeter to Allah than the fragrance of musk. So in other words, when a person is fasting, the Prophet ﷺ is equating the person when he opens his fast, he's kept away from food and drink. And when he opens, he places that date in his mouth, the sweetness that he feels, the immense pleasure of eating the food. This is equated spirituality to the Same way the person, when he is resurrected, he will face God, and he will face God, and he will experience an even more greater sweetness. The same way when we fast, we can't eat and drink and we struggle. This life is a struggle. This life is not easy, it's supposed to be easy for us, it's a test. And this life, the struggles of this life, when they finish and we are resurrected, then we will meet God, and this will be the sweetness that is even more sweeter than the iftar that we experience right now. And I'll finish with another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. It mentions, verily the most beloved of food to Allah is that which has most hands in it. And this is a blessing of communal eating. When we eat together, there's more blessings in it. And God says the best of dishes in the sight of Allah is the one which has most hands in it. And Allah allows us to come together and experience this blessing. And I'll finish off by thanking the organizers, the brothers and sisters. May Allah reward them immensely. And we ask that Allah forgive us for our shortcomings. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.